It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. It makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds and the ink stains that have dried upon some line that keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory, that keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy painted on their columns now that bind me, something that somebody said because they thought we fit together walking. It's not knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk around the railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and hours you're just gentle on my mind. Though the wheat fields and the clotheslines and the junkyards and the highways come between us, and some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone, I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. Not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I dip my cup of soup back from a gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard. My beard a rustling towel and a dirty hat pulled low across my face. Through cup hands round the tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're waiting from the back roads by the rivers of my memories, ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind.
Thursday evening, everybody. Chris McGowan with you as we wrap up another week of shows on the McFiles. We've got a back-to-back trio tonight, duo, I should say. I've got Jeemes here on the phone. He's going to be back with us Monday night because we're not going to have him long tonight on the phone. But don't go anywhere. Right after this one, Dr. Stephen J. Smith's coming on, and we got a short interview with him. So you're going to get two shows rolled into one. But I got my dear buddy James Akers on the line with me first. Good to see you tonight, buddy. And we're going to get you back on Monday night for a longer talk. But I wanted to bring you on to talk about some things tonight. How are you, friend?
I am doing fine, Chris. Thanks for having me on the show.
Always a pleasure. We had your buddy Brad Johnson on Tuesday night. Maybe in the near future, I was telling him, maybe we can coordinate the schedules and get y'all on a Zoom call and do a panel. I think people really like these panels where we have a lot of people together, and we'd like that. Hey, buddy, the reason I got you on a couple of things tonight, I want to talk first. I don't know if you've had a chance to hear about the case tonight with Trump. The judge refused to throw out the documents case, and I find that very striking with the events of the Her indictment or her testimony, and we talked to Brad about this in detail Tuesday night, when he basically said that Joe Biden broke the law, but the only reason they didn't prosecute him because he's old and senile. And I really thought the judge would give more credence to Trump's argument tonight, and they didn't. And I'm just curious how you feel about this, how you see this playing out. What's your thoughts on all this? Because Jeemes, we just continue to see this two-tier justice, and Brad really said it's almost like a third. It's almost like a three-tier, and I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that too. It's pretty obvious, even to my friends that can't stand Trump, they acknowledge that he's just been the target of lawfare. And they're trying to do everything they can to keep the guy off the ticket and running against Biden. That's what it looks like to me.
Do you think they succeed in this? Do you think the Supreme Court steps in at any point and stops any of this mess?
Well, I think they should. Whether they will or not is, things are just so crazy. It's just hard telling. Like you said, there was the report that found Biden guilty of multiple occasions with the documents that he shouldn't have had. They don't do anything about it. It reminded me of Comey, FBI Director Comey with Hillary Clinton, that listed all these charges she was guilty of and then said, no, but nobody would prosecute her. So, so it's crazy.
No, it's insane. It is.
It applies to one side and doesn't to the other. That's
in all your years. Brad mentioned to me that he was in a place that there were certain documents that if the CIA wanted declassified, even he, as a operative in the field, could declassify them. And there was just some things he could do and couldn't do. Were you in that same position with the organization, or was your security a little bit less or higher than his in doing that with documents?
I probably had less access with all of those things. I was, pretty much on the analytics side, and so I generated classified, but I wasn't in that type of position.
Right, I got you.
So. It's just sort of sad, Chris. It's sad what the justice system has come to, and it is as highly politicized as some of these other government institutions, and it is just so sad.
Are any former CIA people that are they concerned with the direction this is going overall in the nation, Jeemes? Because we're on a slippery slope, and we've talked about this, and we've used that term a lot in our interviews over the last 6 months, 8 months since we've known each other. And, buddy, I tell you, we are teetering on some serious ground that I don't think we've ever seen in our lifetime, when we're bordering, I don't know if you call it communism anymore. I don't even know what you call this. I think the communists are probably sitting back to eating popcorn and saying, wow, we wish things were like that over here again, because I don't even think it's this bad in communist countries with the way that this administration is basically going after the political opponents. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're just so drifting so far left in terms of social mores, in terms of the culture. It goes much deeper in my mind than politics. We have almost in this country become a culture of death.
Yes, we have.
And there are those advocates of life, but they're drowned out by all of these crazies that not only are we talking about personal death, but we're talking about a country that they seem intent on killing, the greatest democracy the world has seen. And we are frittering it away with all of these knuckleheads that have no respect for what has been done, no respect for history, no respect for the issues that they're leaving my grandchildren. It's absolutely crazy in my view.
Did you? Look, I couldn't watch the State of the Union. I couldn't even. I'd be honest with you. I had to sort of hold my nose even, and I literally had to hold my breath listening to the clips of it because I have to because of what I do on the show. But I was even having a hard time listening to the clips, man, of this crap that was coming forth from this man's mouth here a week ago tonight, actually, or this week, I guess, whenever it was. I don't even know. I don't care. But I'm just wondering, was there anything in that speech that stood out to you? I think the one thing that stood out to me was, him apologizing after the show about saying the illegals being illegal. I thought that was the biggest insult to Lake and Riley, and he couldn't even say her name right, and he just smugly blew it off.
Yeah, never apologized.
Never apologized.
To her family.
No.
And that whole Lincoln Riley episode is just was bizarre. But that was a bizarre night. I mean, he was feisty. He did just a number of things. There are several theories out there that he was sort of jacked up, but I don't know. That's on one hand. On the other hand, you got to give the old guy credit. Somehow he stood up on his feet, was lucid for combative, and he did what he had to do to quiet a lot of the disarray in his own ranks,
Do you? I know this is going to be a sort of an ugly question, but you think he was coked up on Hunter's coke? I think they had given him some of Hunter's. I think they had given some of Hunter's powder. That's just my guess, man. Look, I always tell people that he's always lucid when he's trashing Trump and trashing the country and trashing conservatives and like what he did at the State of the Union. I mean, he can be as clear and clarity as anybody wants to be. When they're asking him serious questions, all of a sudden he becomes Alzheimer's Joe, So he was coked on something now.
Yeah. Well, I've said it on your program before, and I absolutely believe it. The people in Washington that are really earning their money these days are the people that put together that cocktail that keeps that guy standing in critical situations. Otherwise, he's just a train wreck.
No, that's absolutely correct, buddy. I'll give you that. Look, the other thing I wanted to bring you on, I'm going to keep you about 15 more minutes, and we're going to pick this up Monday night with you when you're back on for a lot longer, because I got a guest coming right behind you tonight. What is your thoughts on this Israeli situation? I've heard some very disturbing rhetoric in the last 48 hours. You had President Biden coming out, basically calling for the overthrow of the Israeli government, wanting to go to the Knesset of all things and speak to them like he feels like he's got a right to tell Israel what to do. Chuck Schumer today goes out, calls for the ouster of Bibi, basically calls for Palestinian state. America's threatening to withhold aid, Jeemes, to them. Biden is putting penalties on the settlements. The only thing I can liken this to is the onslaught of Bill Clinton, the things that he did against Israel, and also Bush Sr. And Obama was as rude as can be. I mean, this is like, I think, Obama's wet dream that he wanted to do, but he just never could bring himself to do it. But I think this is Joe Biden's, I think that he is literally, I don't think he cares. And I think that he has sided firmly with, he's sending aid tonight. It was breaking late this evening. They're sending aid over there to Gaza for the people, or the hostages, basically, if they're claiming they're hostages. But they're sending aid to the Gazans who are basically supporting Hamas, but they are telling Israel, we're not giving you any aid. James, that's going to bring judgment like we've never seen judgment before on this country. If he keeps doing this mess, and who in the hell is telling him to do this, that this is good policy? Who is telling him that, and why is he doing it?
I tell you, there'll be a lot of people that completely disagree with me on this. from a spiritual perspective, we are seeing a complete flip to the demonic as far as I'm concerned.
I won't disagree with that. I'll agree with that and say a hearty amen. Keep going.
And what is happening with now? I know there's room for debate on this. Whether Zionists are a positive thing, and this, that, and the other, and the country of Israel itself is split. But where is the justice for all of those that were raped, got their heads cut off? How can we be such a people that has such selective and short-sighted memories? I have never seen anything like this in my life.
I hadn't either.
And it is crazy what is happening. Schumer, whose election depends on Jews in the city, comes out and asks for Netanyahu's resignation. For one thing, it's none of his business.
None of his business, James. Exactly right.
At all, And I do have a Chuck Schumer story. I may have told you this before, Chris. The most dangerous place in Washington is to be between Chuck Schumer and a camera. He cannot resist, being the star of the show and the center of attention. But this goes beyond the pale as far as I'm concerned. What we are doing to Israel is just, in my mind, akin to high treason.
It is high treason.
I can't believe what I am seeing, and that all of this stuff can swirl, and there seemingly is just almost an absence of public opposition to what is coming down with this stuff. There's little opposition, when the court systems in this country are used to rail, a politician just because you don't like him or his politics. We are seeing something unprecedented. The only historical examples are like in the final days of the Roman Empire and other great empires. All of a sudden, there's an absolute dearth of leadership, and you have mighty empires. It doesn't take long for them to crumble, once the leadership is absolutely void of integrity, and that's the situation we have right now.
Well, you speak of Chuck Schumer and it not being any of his business. James, I'll go further than that. It's none of Joe Biden's business, because he's over there. I mean, what a joke. I mean, you think about this. Who in the living hell would allow a foreign leader to call the White House up and say, we want to come tell you how to do your policy in America? Let's just say that we got attacked, okay? We got attacked just like Israel did. And in retrospect and ratio, what happened to Israel on October the 7th, we would have lost 35,000 people on 9/11, had this same kind of, with the percentage of the population, what died on October the 7th, we'd have looked at 35,000 people being dead on 9/11. Now, what would we have done? Now think about this. Had somebody like France or Germany, who did not like, or let's just say one of these Arab countries, let's just say Saudi Arabia, they didn't like our response to go into Afghanistan, or they didn't like our response to go after Saddam, which I wasn't all on board with Iraq after I found out what was going on, but Afghanistan was a righteous war. We should have got in there and got out, but we went after Osama bin Laden. We were going after the people that were behind 9/11. But what would have happened had we been contacted by a foreign country and they said, hey, we want to come talk to your Congress and tell y'all how to execute this war? I'm going to tell you something. If I'd have been the president of the United States, I would have used expletives that I could never use on this network. I sure couldn't use it on my faith network, but I would have used expletives that I'd have had the audience that I got here tonight, they would have disowned me. You would have disowned me. My mother would have rose up the grave and washed my mouth out with soap. They would have told me to go blank off, and I would have told them to go blank off. It's none of their business, James. But here we are trying to tell Israel and Joe Biden saying, I want to come talk to the Knesset, and I want to see Bibi removed. How arrogant can this SOB be to believe that Israel is going to listen to that and allow him to do that? That's so sick.
Yeah, it is. And then you have the situation where I think I was reading an article today about the Pentagon is now planning to build a complete port to bring things into Gaza.
Into Gaza. It's undermining Israel.
Give me a break. You know, those are the same people that cheered in the streets when they dragged Jewish hostages through the streets and pelted them and kicked them and everything else. They are without excuse.
They are without excuse. But do you not find that is almost undermining Israel? Is that not siding with Hamas, that peer? I heard about that too. And I was listening to some military people. I saw David Friedman on Larry Kudlow's program last night or yesterday. And Larry Friedman's the former U.S. ambassador. I got to meet him, actually, in Nashville here a few weeks ago. And he was basically telling Kudlow, he said, look, he said, you know, that is basically giving Hamas a carte blanche to do what they need to do because it shows them that America is siding with them, not Israel. And James, you know that if they see any distance between us and Israel, it's like a green light of terror. It's like a green light to these terrorists to go and do what they want to do. And then Hezbollah is sitting around waiting. They shot 100 missiles. It's no coincidence to me that when all this is going on in the last 48 hours, that a barrage of 100 missiles came hurling down on northern Israel last night. The media didn't report it. The Israeli media did, but our media didn't. But Hezbollah shot 100 missiles into Israel. And interesting folks, James, this thing about to be a powder keg and blow up. If something ain't done quickly to get these terrorists out of Gaza, we're going to have World War III over there. I'm telling you, we're headed for that, I think.
Yeah, it has the potential to spread and really get ugly. Now, what we do is Israeli war planners, you know, have in mind a certain number of days before the United States will turn on them.
Right.
And so we're past that point. And the Israelis know what's coming, that they're going to have to fight public opinion in the rest of the world, plus now the United States. And Joe Biden showed a bit of backbone early on, but now he's caving in, I think, to the left wing of his party. They have seen all the videos of the people in the streets, you know, maybe listen to a couple Oscar presentations or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you have a long-standing foreign policy, the principles of which we have never wavered from, are about to be reversed. And it's in our lifetime.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's crazy.
We got about 5 minutes here, and we're going to get you back on for a longer interview because I got several other things I want to talk to you about, and I want to interact with our folks a little bit on the next show. But I do want to ask you this. Do you believe, I was talking to Ruth Gudenheim today. We got Ruth coming on next week. She's a precious friend from Israel, right in the heart of Jerusalem. And she says that the Israeli people are getting very frustrated with America right now. You mentioned Joe Biden having a backbone. James, I predicted this. I predicted it on my network the week after all of this happened, and I heard all this blather, and I heard all of this, promising to support Israel. We're going to be right there with them. And here we are in March, so that's been, 5 months roughly. And it didn't take him a month to turn his back. I felt like it was all blather and lies to begin with. He's showing his colors now. But Ruth's saying that the Israeli people are beginning to get very frustrated with not necessarily the American people, but the government. And Israel is basically thumbing their nose at us. And, this is no way to treat our ally in the Middle East. But if we're going to treat our ally like this, Jeemes, who do we turn to when all the stuff that's happening to Israel starts happening to us and they start bombing our interest over there and we've got nowhere to turn? Where does America go with this if we keep doing this?
Well, it's pretty. I'm a big believer, as you are, from listening to you talk, in sort of the prophetic cycle, beginning with Israel becoming a state in 1948.
Yes.
And what we're seeing is consistently pointed out in Scripture that at one point Israel's going to have to stand alone.
She will.
And not depend on the United States or anybody else, but only Jehovah God. And we are sort of approaching, that sort of precipice. I feel sorry for a number of my Jewish friends and what is going to happen to Israel. They're going to be backed into a corner with those Jericho missiles where they're not going to have any choice, and everybody in the world's going to blame them for defending themselves. It's crazy.
I'm glad you said that, because that's something she said today. Folks will hear it on the interview next week. Nobody in the world, Jeemes, is put under such scrutiny and such a microscope and basically dictated to how they handle their own affairs like the nation of Israel. We would not put up with that. I'm sorry. No nation in the world would put up with that. We don't go around ordering Germany around. We don't order France around. We don't order England around like this. We don't order Jordan around. We don't order the Saudis around like this. We don't order anybody. But why is it that we order Israel? We've got to wrap this up in about 3 minutes. Why is it, and I know why, I know the spiritual reason, but politically, why do we think we've got a right to order Israel around to do things that we would never require anybody else to do other than it being demonic? Your word a while ago, other than it being demonically driven.
Well, and too, even the military, placing the Israeli military, the IDF, under all the constraints to avoid casualties and all of these other things. There is no other military in the world that operates that way.
None.
And we expect the Israelis to. It is crazy. It is just crazy.
Buddy, I appreciate you being on. We've got a 15-minute break, and then we got to come right back on the air here with a good guest we hadn't had on a while. And listen, I'm going to get you on back on next week. Now, in case it don't work out Monday, we'll definitely have you back on soon. We do want to get you back on with Brad, and we do want to do a Zoom call with you soon. We hadn't seen your wonderful face in a long time, so we're going to do a Zoom call with you as soon as we can. I appreciate you being on with me tonight. I'm going to give you 2 minutes final thoughts, and we'll wrap this up.
Well, my final thoughts are pretty much always the same. I was telling a group this the other day. We talk about all of these things, and there's a lot of hand-wringing and this, that, and the other. But the God of this universe is in control. He is not surprised by any of these events.
That's right, buddy.
And we need to align our personal lives with the truth and the reality of Jesus Christ. And when you do that, you're not going to be overly worried about all of these things that are going on.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you don't pay attention to them and you don't take heed of them. You just don't let it control you to the point of where there are outcomes that are beyond God's control, because they are not. He has a master plan in mind, and that plan includes you and me and all the listeners, and the apple of his eye, the state of Israel and the Jewish people.
It is. But yeah, I really appreciate you being with me tonight. I will see you next week again. We'll pick this up. And listen, I hope you have a blessed evening. Thank you for taking your time on a Thursday night to be with us, James. Always a pleasure, buddy. God bless.
Always look forward to it, Chris. Anytime. I enjoy talking with you, as always.
Same here, my friend. God bless. Take care, James. Bye-bye now.
God bless. Bye.
Jeemes Akers, everybody. Put some fire in that house. We're grateful for him. and so forth. He was running a little late tonight, and we had hoped if we'd have had him on at 8:15 when we had planned to, we actually had him planned for 7. He just couldn't make that, and then we pushed it to 8, and it became 8:30, then 8:45. But we had Dr. Smith, and Dr. Smith can't stay up till midnight, so we got to get Dr. Smith on here in about 13 minutes. And I'm gonna do a afterthought with Dr. Smith after him. But I hope you enjoyed Jeemes Akers tonight. He had a lot of good things to say. And folks, this is a developing story with Israel right now. I beg you, if you can get to this conference in Mississippi next week, it's a week from tomorrow night. By the way, I saw Sheila Daspit out there. I meant to send her a message today. It's a very prophetic conference. Next weekend is Purim. Next weekend is Purim. And then the following week is Passover. And that Friday night service, we're going to be dealing with the Feast of Prophecy. You don't want to miss it. We're going to be going through all the feasts and deal with how these are types of events on God's calendar prophetically. It all has to do with Israel. But Purim is a feast that took place in Shushan. And for our morning Bible students, Shushan should ring a bell because that is where Daniel was when he got the prophecies that he is recording in the 7th and the 8th chapters of his book, and that was in modern-day Persia, which is modern-day Iran. And a lot of these things that are happening, folks, and Iran is really the monster behind all this. We'll talk about that more next week. I was going to get into that more with Jeemes tonight, and we just didn't have time, but we will. I want to thank you for being with me tonight. Do not go anywhere. We're not done yet. This is Dr. Smith's first appearance of 2024 on our network, and I've got a reason for having him on tonight. And come on back, and we may take your questions on the news network with him. And this is going to happen in about 10 minutes. So I'm going to sign off just for a second. Same bat time, same bat channel here in about 10 minutes, and so forth. I'll see you when I see you in 10 minutes right here with Dr. Stephen J. Smith, my dear buddy from Knoxville, Tennessee. Listen, put some fire in that house for Jeemes. We thank you for being with us tonight. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. God bless this nation over here that I've got illustrated in that flag too. We should be like this right now, but we're like this. But America's hope for her survival, folks, centered on that tiny nation of Israel. Israel don't need America. I know people think she does politically. She's not going to poke the bear. She needs America in many ways. She does. But ultimately, spiritually, she don't need America. We need her. And I'll just leave it at that. We're going to talk about that over the weekend, next weekend. All right. May you be blessed tonight. I will see you in about 10 minutes. And Dr. Stephen J. Smith will be with us to talk about some medical stuff. Until then, may God bless you.